we're going to start back in Chapter 1, Section 1. And some of you started filling out some note cards for this, but we're having a hard time getting the backs done. That's okay. Let's talk about them real quick. We're going to some of the very basics of geometry right now. Now that we kind of know how to reason and to think and how we're going to think in here, let's take a look at some of these vocab words which are going to be our reasons as time goes on. Anything we do as vocabulary or a theorem or a definition, anything like that, those are going to wind up being our reasons. Just like in algebra, our reasons were like addition, property, subtraction property. These things, these cards you're creating are going to be your reasons that you're going to be able to use to prove things. Some will use more, some will use less, but these are the reasons. And that's one reason why I think it's important that you make these note cards, that you keep these note cards, that you study these, because when you know what's on those cards, then you know what your justifications could be. You understand how you can prove something. We have to start with some very basic terms, though. And the very basic terms we deal with are point, line, and plane. A point is simply a specific place. Any specific place. It does not have any dimension. There's no length, no width, no anything. It's just a specific place. Okay? We normally label a point with a letter, and so if I draw a point, I draw it with a dot of some sort, and I label it with a letter, like P. That would be a point. And it's just specifying a spot somewhere. The point is actually, like I said, infinitely small. It's just that we have to draw something. When we draw something, and that something has dimension, but the point itself is actually infinitely small. A line has length, but no width and no depth. Okay? A line has length, but no width and no depth. Length only. And that length is infinite. So lines go on forever. That's a line. I can name a line a couple ways. You'll see it done a couple ways. Sometimes use an italicized or a cursive letter over here, and then they'll call it line L. Or they may put some points on that line, any 2 points, and call it line AB, and we use the symbol of a line over it to indicate that it's a line. That would be the same as line BA. But whenever we name a line, we only use 2 points. Even if I had a third point on here, C, I would still just call it AB or AC or CB or BC or whatever. Just 2 points when naming a line. And we must use the correct symbol, because if we don't use the correct symbol, we're actually naming something else. You'll see soon enough. A plane has length and width. But no depth. A great model of a part of a plane is a piece of paper. Okay, it has length and width, but if it was an actual plane, it would go on forever in both the length and the width. But it has no depth, so no thickness. Now, this is not a plane because it actually has thickness. It does not a lot of thickness, but it does. But they're infinitely thin. When we name a plane, we name 3 points in that plane to name it, and we use the word plane. So if I have a plane, usually I'll draw it like this, and I'll put 3 points in here, A, B, and N. I would call that plane ABN after 3 points. Or sometimes I'll put a bold letter down here in the corner, a real bold letter, and then they could just call it plane X also. But in that case, X is not a point in the plane, it's just the name of the plane. Okay? Just like here, if I use line L, L is not a point on that line, L is just the name of the line. So we do it both ways, different ways of naming things. Those are points, lines, and planes. We will use them all year in here. So, how could I name this line? Here's points A, B, and C on that line. Somebody tell me one way I could name that line. What would be one name for that line? What you got?
Line BCA.
Okay, how many letters do we use for name it?
Oh, two.
Just two. So BC would work. What would be another one? Someone else. One. BA. Keep going. AC. Another one. Someone else. Shout it out. AB. CB. CA. I think that's about it. Okay, any of those would work. They're all representing the same line. But how many points do we use when we name a line? Two. No more than two. Just two. Okay? Collinear points are points on the same line. So in the example above, A, B, and C are collinear points. Collinear. The opposite of collinear is non-collinear. So if I put a point D here, D would be non-collinear with A and B. D, A, and B are non-collinear. Are D and A collinear by themselves? Sure. I could draw a line that has D and A in it. Just letters D and A. Just because it's not drawn doesn't mean that. However, when I have 3 points, if they form a triangle, basically it's non-collinear. You have to have at least 3 points to be non-collinear. Any 2 points are collinear. A ray has one endpoint and spell today is infinite in the other direction. So maybe a picture of a ray would look something like this. That would be ray AB. Now, unlike a line, how we name a ray is very important. The first point is the end point. The second point is some point along the way. This is not the same as ray BA. Ray BA would be a ray that begins at B and goes this way. So ray AB is very specific. And notice that it still uses 2 letters, but our symbol is different. Now, if I have a ray that goes like this, I'll call this M and this X. This would be ray MX. Notice the symbol still points to the right. The symbol does not indicate the direction the ray is pointing. The symbol always points to the right. We always use the end point first, some point along the way second. Okay? The end point always comes first, some point along the way second. Symbol always goes to the right when we name a ray. More space. All rats. Okay. Segments, 2 endpoints. If I'm going to name that segment, that would be segment XY. And guess what? We use a segment symbol. Kind of like lines, that would be the same as YX. It would be the same segment. Because you have both endpoints. It's not infinite in any direction. So ray is the only one that's really extremely picky. These are a little less picky. These are probably the least picky of all. That's how we name them. Opposite rays form a line. two rays with same endpoint that together form a line. Now this is one that a lot of people get mixed up on. There's ray AB. All right? Here's ray AX. They are opposite rays. They have the same endpoint. They both begin at point A. They go opposite directions and form a line. If it formed an angle, that wouldn't be opposite rays, okay? If this AX is going up here somewhere, that wouldn't be opposite rays. AB and BA are not opposite rays. They don't have the same endpoint, even though they're using the same letters. Opposite rays doesn't mean just switch the letters. That doesn't work. Opposite rays start with the same letter, start with the same point, and go in opposite directions. So a few terms that we need to be familiar with. And geometry is extremely picky about things like symbols. So you have to be sure you're using the right symbol. If I say name a line, and you don't use the right symbol, you haven't named the line. If you don't use any symbol at all, that means something completely different as well. That means the length of a segment. By just saying XY with no symbol whatsoever, I'm talking about the length of the segment between X and Y. So even not having a symbol has meaning in geometry. So we have to know our names, our symbols, and their meanings. Intersections, two lines intersect. They intersect at a point. I think you already know that. When two planes intersect, that intersection is a line. We can also have a line intersecting a plane, and we'll give you the no expense spared model from Milton High School, because we only do the best. There's a line intersecting a plane. Wow, exciting, isn't it? But it gives you the idea. Okay? Whenever two things intersect, when a line intersects a plane, that's just at a point. Two lines intersect, it's a point. When two planes intersect, it's a line. Again, we've done this already. We've done 6 different names for this line. Give me a name for a segment between point B and point C. Segment that connects point B and point C. This is not a trick question. It really is as simple as you might think. What will be a name? Yeah? BC. BC. Wow. How about another name for the same segment? Anybody? CB. Excellent. Name a ray with initial point B, so it's starting at B and goes through C. So at the ray that begins here and goes this direction. What would I name that ray? BC. With arrow to the right. What would be the opposite ray to BC? BA. Excellent. And notice, even though that ray on our picture goes to the left, my symbol still goes to the right. Okay? Naming planes, we've talked about this already. This would be plane CAT, because those are 3 points in the plane. Or I could call it just plane P, because that bold letter up in the corner. Three-dimensional, identifying lines and things like that. Here's where it's going to get interesting and where you're going to get some practice in tonight. You're going to start looking at three-dimensional drawings on two-dimensional things like paper. And you have to look at this and say, okay, what would line AB, name another line that intersects with line AB. Well, it's not too bad. Locate AB. What would be another line? Maybe AE, or AD, or BC, or FB, or something like that. So you're going to get practice naming things today and just identifying parts of points, lines, and planes. That's really what today is about. It's not hard. You've seen most of this before. You know what a point is. You know what a line is. You've seen planes. We're being more picky than you've probably had to deal with in the past. But that's what tonight's homework is about. It's about practicing this. And for those who don't have it written down, be patient. Not quite time to go yet. Not quite. For those who aren't sure about what the homework is tonight, here we go. Page 5 through 8, 1 through 16, 18 through 36 even, 47 and 48. Most of these are extremely short, quick little problems, not big, long proof type things. They're pretty straightforward. I don't think you're going to have too much difficulty. Pages 5 through 8, numbers 1 through 16, 18 through 36. Basically 1 through 36, skip number 17. 1 through 36, skip 17. So you can get cold in here? Is that it? Hold on. I just got to stop.